Good evening, this is Brastax. I'm Zakir Jacob. So through the course of the Kashmir election campaign, Pakistan has finally had to butt in. Pakistan's Defence Minister Khwaja Asif has said that Pakistan's objective is the same as that of the National Conference and the Congress Party, which is the restoration of Article 370. Now, we want to be clear about a few things. This is a point of divergence between the Congress and the National Conference, the two alliance partners. While the National Conference has pretty explicitly, in fact, mentioned this in its manifesto as well, that one of its first priorities would be to bring back 370, the Congress Party, on the other hand, has steered clear of this issue. Yes, on the issue of statehood and the restoration of statehood, both parties seem to be on the same page. But on the restoration of 370, there is a divergence. While NC wants it, the Congress has not quite explicitly said that. Now, on the campaign trail, after Khwaja Asif said what he did, even the Prime Minister, who was campaigning today in Srinagar and in Katra, he referred to this controversy in his campaign trail today and said, why is it that Pakistan and the Congress seem to be speaking the same language? The Congress's contention is, who is dragging Pakistan into what is purely a domestic affair of India, a domestic election campaign of India in Jammu and Kashmir? The question is, are Congress and the National Conference alliance partners, are they defensive when it comes to 370? And the larger question is, will any party, today the BJP is ruling at the center, tomorrow another party could be ruling at the center, will any party be in a position to talk about restoring Article 370, or is the abrogation of that article now pretty much a fait accompli?
जैसे कि उन्होंने प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंस में कहा है, बल्कि ये एक इलेक्शन इशू बनाया हुआ उन्होंने कि स्टेटस जो है रिस्टोर होना चाहिए। तो स्टेटस अगर रिस्टोर हुआ तो काफ़ी हद तक जो एक हमारा भी बड़ा एहतजाज रहा है पिछले 4-5 साल में इस इशू पे, बिल्कुल हमारा भी ये डिमांड है।
कांग्रेस नेशनल कॉन्फ्रेंस के अलायंस की बल्ले बल्ले हो रही है पाकिस्तान में। पाकिस्तान के डिफेंस मिनिस्टर ने कांग्रेस नेशनल कॉन्फ्रेंस का खुलकर समर्थन किया है पाकिस्तान से। कांग्रेस और एनसी का एजेंडा वही है जो पाकिस्तान का एजेंडा है।
अब पाकिस्तान को हमारे से क्या लेना देना ना, हम तो पाकिस्तान का हिस्सा है ही नहीं। वो अपना मुल्क संभाले ना, हमें अपना संभालने दीजिए।
Who is Pakistan to interfere in our matters? Number two, why is it that whenever the BJP wants something from Pakistan, a love letter comes from Pakistan like this one?
All right, so the Congress Party maintains that it does not support the restoration of Article 370. In fact, in its manifesto for Jammu and Kashmir, it does not mention Article 370 at all. But even after phase 1 of the assembly elections, which got over yesterday, the alliance has not come out with a common minimum program, or at least clarified on this divergence between the Congress and the National Conference. One party not wanting 370 to be brought back, and the other party explicitly saying that they will. The dominant narrative in the Valley from the alliance's point of view has been the declaration of the National Conference. But time and time again, the Congress Party's attacks have served as cover fire. Now, let's look at some of the instances in the past where Pakistan and the Congress seem to have spoken the same language. On the 12th of February 2024, Manishankar Iyer called Pakistan the biggest asset of India. Iyer said that no dialogue with Pakistan was the Modi government's biggest mistake. In January of last year, Digvijay Singh of the Congress Party had said that they talk about surgical strikes and killing so many terrorists, but there is no proof of it, questioning in a way the Balakot terror strikes of 2019. In 2019, Adhir Ranjan Chaudhary, the Congress leader at that time, he said that the Modi government violated all rules and converted a state into a union territory overnight. He was, of course, talking about the instance of Jammu and Kashmir. In November 2015, Manishankar Iyer, Congress leader, said that removing Modi from power is the only way that talks with Pakistan can move forward. And of course, in 2009, when UPA was in power, the Sharm el-Sheikh agreement, which basically equated Pakistan and India both as victims of terror, saying that action on terrorism should not be linked to the composite dialogue process and that these should not be bracketed together. So let's open this up to our guests who are joining us. Mr. Kuldeep Khoda is former DGP of Jammu and Kashmir. Shaila Rashid Shora is researcher and Kashmir expert. Tuin Sina, national spokesperson of the BJP. Amitabh Dubey is national spokesperson of the Congress Party. Amitabh Dubey, let me start with you. I'm going to read out what Khwaja Asif said in that interview, that I think, and I quote, I think restoration of Article 370 is possible. National Conference has mentioned this in their manifesto. Congress and National Conference have a strong presence in J&K, a high chance of them winning the polls. Pakistan, Congress and National Conference are on the same page when it comes to 370. Are you?
Let me first reiterate, as we have on several occasions, the Congress Party has not called for the restoration of Article 370. We are demanding statehood. When a government is formed, not before that, when a government is formed, there will be a common minimum program. And rest assured, there will be no restoration of Article 370. NC spokespersons have also clarified that in their mind, they have a judicial process in mind. That is their problem. It is not anything we have to do with. But I'd like to also point out for your viewers and for everyone that the small clips of the Pakistani defense minister you've played, if you watch the whole video, and I urge everyone to watch the whole video, it starts off with the interviewer, Hamid Mir, actually telling him that Congress and NC stand for the restoration of Article 35 and 370, which is a false premise to begin with. The defense minister goes with this presumption and makes his comments about it. Then Hamid Mir plays a clip of Pawan Khera talking about statehood, which, as you know, we stand for. Even the Prime Minister has said that he supports eventually, in some distant future, statehood for J&K. And he goes back to the defense minister and says, see, they are supporting Article 370. So it's a complete distortion of our position. He misinformed what the defense minister, the information he placed in front of him, and the defense minister reacted as any Pakistani would.
But Mr. Dubey, can you clarify for our viewers, including viewers who are watching this broadcast completely in Jammu and Kashmir, clearly you and your alliance partner, the National Conference, are on two pages when it comes to 370. National Conference has said this explicitly in their manifesto, that they are for restoration of 370. You are steering clear of that.
Yes.
How do you explain this divergence?
As you're aware, Kashmir has very divergent political parties come together to form governments. In the past, the BJP formed a government with the PDP that had called for trade, called for the use of the Pakistani rupee in the valley. But of course, the government that was formed did not do that. Similarly, the BJP has formed a government with the National Conference. The National Conference must have had views that were different for the BJPs, but when they formed the government, they had a common minimum program. So this is just an attempt to hijack the election. The election is being fought on bread and butter issues, on economic issues, the denial of rights to the people of Jammu Kashmir to determine their own future, the fact that 10% of the population, according to Parliament, is using narcotic drugs. 10%, 13.5 lakh people. So these are the real issues of Jammu and Kashmir, and any other conversation is an attempt to divert voters.
Okay, Tuin Sina, this is an attempt at diversion. Why do you need the crutches of the Pakistan defense minister to essentially talk about an election in a part of India, an important election? Why do you need the crutches of Pakistan? I mean, the Prime Minister is referring to Khwaja Asif's statement. The Congress Party spokesperson is very clear that they are in no way for restoration of 370.
Well, good evening, Zaka. Good evening, everybody. Fact is that the only people excited about the National Conference Congress Party alliance are people across the border. In Kashmir, people are extremely skeptical. Why are they skeptical? Because across a period of 70 years, chicanery, deceit and perfidy have been the hallmark of this alliance. You know, way back in 1953, Nehru knew about the true intention of Sheikh Abdullah. What was the Kashmir conspiracy case about? What, didn't it involve Pakistan? And yet before his death, Nehru made sure that, they had a pact again and he was reinstalled. What was the 1987, Rajiv Gandhi, Farooq Abdullah Accord? Again, that was the precursor to the worst form of militancy. So every time these two parties have got together, people have been extremely uncomfortable. But in this particular situation, from the day that National Conference released its manifesto on 20th August, every single day we have been asking the Congress Party to come forth and do a press conference. Now, when the situation seems to be getting out of control, they have allowed select spokespersons to come out and do a different line. But in the meantime, what happened? Rahul Gandhi meets Ilhan Omar, whose position on Article 370, whose position on Article 35A, and whose position on Muslims in general in India are not only notorious, they are well known to the world. So I think the impetus, the onus is on Congress party to come forth and hold a press conference tomorrow.
But
Let the
Tween,
world
no,
know.
no, one second,
We have
Tween,
seen
Tween,
a senior leader. Just what, 10
you have
seconds. We
done
have seen a
business,
senior.
Tween Sinha, you have done business with the National Conference. Omar Abdullah was ostensibly a Minister of State in Mr. Vajpayee's government back in the early 2000s. You have done business with the PDP. So it's rich coming from you
there
that
is a big
the
difference.
National
There is a
Conference and the
big
Congress
difference.
cannot ally. How are you any different from them?
No, there is a big difference.
What is the
Zaka.
difference?
When we get together with a national conference, when we get together, the whole premise is they need to be aligned with a nationalist thought process. You know, when we had this alliance with PDP, obviously all of the preconditions, all of what PDP had, said in the past was done away with. But 3 years down the line, the moment we realized that they could not get over the jive mentality and they could not align themselves with our nationalist thought process, we chucked the alliance. We are not like the Agadi alliance, which was there only for extortion.
Okay, so let me ask
In
Shaila
Maharashtra.
Rashid Shora as a Kashmiri, is this the number one issue that people are talking about in the Valley, restoration of Article 370? Because let's be very clear about it. No matter who is going to be in power at the center, today the BJP is, tomorrow another party could be, I don't see the possibility of any ruling party in Delhi restoring 370 through an amendment in Parliament.
Right, Zaka. The gentleman from the Congress, Mr. Amitabh Dubey, I think he made it amply clear what you are saying. BJP is not going to do it. Congress is not going to do it. Then NC and PDP will have to form a government at the center in order to restore Article 370, which is, very unlikely to happen because they might struggle to form a government even in J&K as it is today, as the situation is. Now, here I want to make a differentiation. You asked me whether 370 is an issue among the people. There are people and there are people. So there are people with a small p, the aam janta, civilians, who don't care about it. They want jobs. They want some economic reconstruction. They want electricity bills issue to be resolved. For example, today when you saw Prime Minister's speech in Srinagar, do you know which point attracted the loudest cheers from him? Where he mentioned the possibility of having a solar rooftop over every home, which will bring down the electricity bills to zero. That point, Zaka, that attracted the loudest cheers if you analyze that video. Those are the issues people have. Then there are people with the capital letter P, which are politicians, which are candidates, who are saying that 370, Hindustan, Pakistan, that's not what people want. People want resolution of their daily issues. Now, if you ask me as a civilian, I am not a political figure at all now. I am a civilian. मेरा क्या issue है? My issue is that there is a stray dog issue. There is a waste management issue. There are dog bites. Nobody is talking about it. There is not a single candidate who is fighting about it. I am myself working on skill development issues because there is a huge unemployment problem in Jammu and Kashmir, and there are limitations on like traditional development. So I am working on giving youth skills like AI, generative AI. I don't identify at all with what the politicians are telling us. This 370, it is just another good tea. It is just another, that tonic which is being given to people, which they are not asking for. This is totally unsolicited. People have moved on, but it is up to the politicians now to solve the real problems of
But
Jammu and
Shaila,
Kashmir.
if I can ask you, look, there are choices, there are fairly limited choices, I think, in this election. You have the Congress NC on the one side, you have
Right.
the BJP, and what many are saying, and this seems to be sort of seeping through, that the BJP is also propping up some independents, Engineer Rashid's party, Apni party, etc., etc. This is fairly the straightforward choice there before the people of Jammu and Kashmir. I don't think anyone thinks that the PDP is in a position to form a government on its own. So, in this choice between, for want of a better phrase, the devil in the deep sea, what is it that the people of Kashmir are thinking?
No, I can only speak for Kashmir region. Jammu region, I don't know about.
Okay.
Kashmir, NC is the best organized party, right? PDP, because NC has the candidates, they have former MLAs who would have been sitting MLAs if the assembly weren't dissolved. They have ministers. whereas all the PDP ministers and MLAs, they have gone to Apni party and whatever. So National Conference is the best organized party, and Congress doesn't have much of a foothold. So what I'm trying to say here, through different interventions, is that this is a free and fair election, and instead of being worked up, instead of being angry, NC and Congress people, they should be smiling, they should be happy right now, because this is not 1987. The shameful legacy of the 1987 rigging, which happened at the behest of NC and Congress, and in fact, Mufti Saab at that time was the state president of Congress. So NCPDP and Congress are all implicated in that. That has given us the insurgency. Now, my request to them is just smile, be happy. This is a free and fair election where BJP has put nation above party.
Okay.
So don't get worked up. Don't radicalize the entire population for an election which is not even a full-fledged state assembly.
Okay.
That's my
In
point.
fact, both parties have said that one of their first priorities would be the restoration of statehood. We'll see how that plays out. But I want to also bring in Mr. Kuldeep Khoda in from a security point of view, and that is that when the BJP says that the Congress and elements within the Pakistani establishment are speaking the same language, or National Conference and elements within the Pakistani establishment are speaking the same language, what sort of security paradigm does that throw open? Now, one very critical factor, Mr. Khoda, and you'd appreciate this as former DGP, is that all eyes are on whether the election in Kashmir will be violence-free. And I'm happy to report that the first phase, which happened yesterday, has been by and large free of any major violent incident. So that in itself is a big check of the box, if you will, because 370 had been abrogated. People said, there'll be a bloodbath there. There were recent concerns about increased terrorist activity in Jammu. Again, that doesn't seem to have hampered either the voter turnout or the overall participation of people in the polls itself. So that in itself, how much of a worry is it that the language that's being spoken might be seen as provocative by certain sections and therefore might jeopardize the peaceful conduct of the polls?
As far as polling is concerned, the polling has been held previously also. I can refer back to 2008 when there was serious agitation both in Jammu region and Kashmir region, when the land row agitation started, and it involved the entire state that time. The elections which followed the turmoil of 2008 were held very peacefully because the people generally believe in ensuring that the electoral process should go through, because that is in the overall interest of the people of the state. They have, as Madam Shora has pointed out, they have lots of issues which were not getting addressed. Now, through the public representatives, they will get addressed, and they are very hopeful that a well-established political government will be established, which can cater for their problems, which they have been facing over last so many years. As far as the security situation is concerned, I am very positive, and I can assure you that the elections, the remaining two phases, also will go incident-free. And in any case, if there is an incident, it will be in some remote area which are not addressed because security forces cannot be present everywhere. Sometimes some odd incident takes place, but on the whole, the electoral process will be smooth, incident-free, and people will get a good government at the end of it. And as far as the political interference in this situation because of the provocative statements is concerned, let me elaborate here that in the present state of affairs, the internal security and the public order is with the center, and that will continue to be so with the formation of the political government. So that has been done with a view to ensure that the command and control over the security forces remains unified, and there is no dual authority to control the police and the paramilitary forces by two separate political
So
forces.
you're saying even if there were to be an elected state government tomorrow, both police and paramilitary, the security, internal security of Jammu and Kashmir will still rest with the LG?
Absolutely, that's already the notification has been already issued some time back, and that's going to continue as such. And that's going to ensure that the security situation remains well under control and continues to function as it has been. And there has been huge improvement after the imposition of the president's rule and after revocation of 370. and that security situation will continue to improve
Yeah,
because
that's what the data also suggests, and as per a written reply by
absolutely.
the Home Ministry in the last session of Parliament, the number of terror incidents after the abrogation of Article 370 in 5 years has come down quite substantially. It's now in double digits. It used to be in triple digits before that. But I want to go back to the political spokespersons and Mr. Dubey of the Congress Party. I just want to read out 3 or 4 statements from mainstream Pakistani politicians which seem to mirror what the Congress Party and Congress leaders have been saying. In May of 2024, Chaudhry Fahad Hussain, who was then a Pakistan minister, had said that Rahul Gandhi and his mindset is praiseworthy. In February of 2020, Shah Mahmood Qureshi, who was then Foreign Minister of Pakistan, had said that he had in fact cited the doubts raised by the Congress Party over the Pulwama attack. In September of 2019, Imran Khan, then former Prime Minister of Pakistan back then, he cited the Congress's statement on curfew in Jammu and Kashmir. He also cited the Congress's allegation of RSS training terrorists. Does it not worry you, Mr. Dubey, that mainstream Pakistani politicians are using the Congress to fire off the Congress's shoulder against the BJP?
As I said, the defense minister's comment, of course, was based on something being fed to him. I have nothing to say about what individual Pakistanis want to say or not. They have no locus standi about affairs in Jammu and Kashmir and India, so they feel to express their opinions in Pakistan as they wish. But I'll tell you what worries me. Sheila Rashid made a comment. For many years, the PDP and the NC have been used by mainstream Indian parties, basically the Congress and the BJP, as partners in Kashmir to bring people into the mainstream. But as you yourself said, all of a sudden, we suddenly have people like Engineer Rashid. We have the Jamaat-e-Islami popping up with candidates, with campaigns, with funding. What concerns me is, what are the forces pushing these into the mainstream? Are these people who are going to integrate Kashmir with India further? Or are these separatist forces that are going to go the other way? So these are very serious
who
questions.
Who are these forces who are?
Well,
you
yourself said it's the BJP.
No, I didn't say that. No.
You did.
Hang on.
You can go back. You said it was.
Don't put words in my mouth. I said there is a section within Kashmir which seems to think that.
Yes. So these are very valid concerns. How are these forces suddenly being allowed to? How is Amritpal suddenly coming up in? So these are my concern is that these are James Bond-like maneuvers by some sections that are very, very likely to backfire. And the Indian state and whoever is behind them has to be very careful about where this is heading. We've seen what's happened in Manipur.
You have
vulnerabilities that happened in Manipur
worked with
because
PDP,
of this kind of...
worked with National Conference. Now you're sidelining those mainstream political parties in Kashmir, and instead, some people, some sections in Kashmir seem to think that you guys have propped up Engineer Rashid and Apni Party and others.
Let me say this very categorically. We have nothing to do with Engineer Rashid. In fact, that entire letter, of the state president of BJP asking our Karyakartas to greet him was a fake news, a concocted news spread by National Conference, Congress Party Alliance. When you mention about, the Congress Party's common thought process with Pakistan, it's not an imagination. I will tell you why Congress Party at different junctures has helped Pakistan. When was the abrogation of Article 370 done? The bill was introduced on 5th August 2019. On 24th August, you can check it on yourself as a journalist. On 24th August, Rahul Gandhi had resigned. After the 2019 defeat. 24th August was the first meeting of CWC to appoint a new leader. They could not. To distract attention, at 8:30 p.m. at night, Rahul Gandhi came forward and made a ridiculous statement saying that there is bloodshed in the valley without any authentication. That lie was utilized by Pakistan to browbeat India for the next 5 to 6 weeks diplomatically. So, there are various ways in which Congress tends to help Pakistan. I don't know whether there is a partnership or whether, there is just a meeting of minds or wherever, but it's a fact. It's a fact. It's not imagination, it's a fact. I have just given you one example. You yourself pointed out 3 or 4 different examples.
Okay, so let me go back to Sheila Rashid Shora. Sheila, it comes back to if the mainstream parties, and for the last 20 years or so, or maybe even longer than that, the mainstream Kashmir parties were the PDP and the National Conference. The National Conference today is in an alliance with the Congress Party. The PDP is fighting on its own. This sidelining or pushing to the margins of the mainstream parties on the rise of the likes of an Engineer Rashid, Apni Party, Jamaat-e-Islami, etc. Is that worrying?
I will answer this in 5 points. First of all, as far as Engineer Rashid is concerned, he was already a 2-3 term MLA. He has already served 2-3 terms as an MLA. He's somebody who is sworn on the Constitution of India, number one. Number two, as far as Jamaat-e-Islami is concerned, they are not contesting as an organization because it is a banned organization. However, ECI, Election Commission of India, is not BJP. They have to allow every citizen of India to contest unless and until the individual concerned is convicted for 2 or more years, in which case he will be disqualified, right? That is another thing. So, the third thing I want to say is that these dynasty parties, with all due respect to the individuals who are in these parties, I mean no disrespect, इनको लगता है कि इनका बर्थ राइट है, इनको लगता है हमारा जो है पैदाइशी हक है पॉलिटिक्स के ऊपर, उसके बाद जो भी आएगा वो जो है वो एजेंट है बीजेपी का. दिस इज अ वेरी रॉन्ग थॉट प्रोसेस. यू डोंट हैव एनी बर्थ राइट. फोर्थ थिंग, ये जो ये चीज बोली जा रही है कि दिस इज एन एजेंट, दैट इज एन एजेंट, what these parties have done, we often we fault the Hurriyat, right? We often blame the Hurriyat for enforcing poll boycott and doing patrao and not allowing people to vote. What we should also know is that at on many occasions it was the mainstream parties winning candidates who ensured poll boycotts. ये लोगों को पैसे देते थे पथराव करने के लिए, मेन स्ट्रीम की बात कर रही हूँ. They used to ensure poll boycotts by doing pathrav so that nobody else comes to power. That is how they have held on to the chair. Now, fifth and last thing that I want to tell them is that their wish has been granted. For the last 9-10 months, they have been demanding democracy and elections. My friends, this is what democracy looks like. You go to Muzaffarnagar, if there is a candidate named Abdul Halim, there will be 10 other candidates named Abdul Halim who will also file the nomination in order to create confusion. This is how elections happen. However, National Conference, Congress, these are registered parties. इनका symbol है अपना. People have a right to vote for them as they did in the Lok Sabha election. Why don't I see one word of appreciation from India Alliance partners that elections are free and fair and transparent. Even people sitting in Tihar jail are winning by record margins. This is a celebration of democracy. This is something we should be proud of. This is what democracy unfortunately looks like. It looks messy, but democracy is not famed for being orderly or disciplined. This is what democracy looks like. What can you do about it?
I think the fact that we've had 60% plus voter turnout in yesterday's phase, and by and large, incident-free, violence-free in itself is a big token of moving forward as far as Kashmir is concerned, as far as the people there are concerned. Mr. Khoda, I'll give you the final word. Do you see this whole, the election being a slap in the face of what for the last 30 years was a separatist narrative, a secessionist narrative? There was a time, as Shaila said, suddenly one fine day, Mr. Gilani or Mr. Mirwais would say, we are boycotting the polls. Today, no one is talking about boycotting the polls. Everybody is participating in the polls. More than 61% voted yesterday, and I believe that figure is going to go up. I believe the same range you will find in the next two phases as well. Again, without any major incident of violence in itself is testament to the fact that Naya Kashmir does not want to go down the secessionist or the separatist way.
Absolutely. In fact, the next two phases is going to witness a bigger turnout than first phase. For various reasons, including the areas which are going to vote during next two phases. Generally, in the past elections, there has been larger turnout in those areas. So the percentage is likely to go up. And beyond that, as far as the forces which have combined and have joined the election fray, that is very laudable, because if some separatists who were earlier boycotting the polls, if they decide to join this time the electoral process, under the oath of Constitution, we should welcome it and we should encourage the greater participation. This time, as you rightly pointed out, there has been no election boycott call. That in itself is a very encouraging trend, and that indicates the mind of the people as to how the things are going to be and how the things are shaping. So we should welcome it as far as the apprehension is concerned that some MLA, after getting elected, is going to be behaving in anti-national manner. There are enough laws to deal with them, and I'm sure that none of the elected MLAs is going to behave like that. Engineer Rashid has been MLA twice before that. And he behaved well as far as the constitutional process is concerned. There are allegations against him on funding and other things.
Yeah.
But that's a separate issue, and he's been dealt with, and he was in prison. So we should not get apprehensive. We should welcome people joining from across all thoughts, joining the electoral fray. That is the real democracy, and the taste of democracy lies in that.
All right, Mr. Khoda, Sheila Rashid, and of course, Tuin Sinha and Amitabh Dubey, thank you very much for joining us. We'll see how this plays out, the remainder of the two phases of elections in Kashmir, and of course, whether or not all of these comments from Pakistani politicians, whether that finds resonance, this whole business of restoring 370, whether that finds resonance or have the people of Kashmir moved on, that is something that we will keep an eye out on.